Hey, welcome to another episode of Chasing Rings. G, big dude, what's going on tonight?
Gentlemen.
What's up, brothers?
What's up? What's up, fellas? What's up? Oh man, a lot going on in news these days. We'll certainly hop into that. But tonight's show, we are going to have what I would imagine would be a very spirited conversation about this survey that ESPN just did on the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. I know in past conversations that we've had collectively that we probably do not agree with the order of that thing. So that'll be a good convo. And even though the Pac-12 does not have official media days, we are going to kind of do a bit of a preview with them and kind of some interesting tidbits I think that we uncovered in our research, but we'll do a look at their season and try to give some predictions on that. Not being super familiar with the teams, especially as familiar as we are with the Power Four, but I think it'll be another good conversation. So that's our plan for tonight. And right now, you know how we always do when it comes to chasing rings. You know, we can't get started until we hit you with the
wait, what?
Big dude, you will lead us onto the field tonight, my friend.
All right. We are talking about the Big 12 tonight. And in accordance with the Big 12, I wanted to let everyone know there's a very big transfer from UConn. The gentleman's name is Umar Diamande, linebacker. Came with his coach, Jim Moore Jr. 116 tackles last year and 5 sacks. But as tremendous of a player he is, did you know, and this has to do with something that probably no one is interested in unless you play video games, that this linebacker that hasn't played a play yet has been given the highest rating, the average of 82 on EA's NCAA rating, the highest average on Colorado State's football team.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I've been out of the video game business for a while, but I do hear cats talking about the rating, so I know that's huge for somebody that doesn't play, especially.
It's real huge. They're giving him 82 for speed, 81 for agility, and this is a linebacker, 6'1", 230, and 86 for awareness. So they're expecting some big things, and playing for his coach, and they brought a few players from UConn. He's expected to be a force across the Big 12 this year on defense.
And how many tackles was that?
116.
Yeah, but I love tacklers, man, who rack
Love
up
it.
those numbers.
Tackling machine.
Yep, you know he's busy. He's getting to the ball. That'll be good to see. And also, you might want to hold on to that name, big dude. Somebody with that type of production might come up in our draft conversation. So,
I think
you
he'll
want to
be
make
there.
a note of that.
I think he'll be there.
All right, G, what do you have for us?
All right, so this is in honor of the new Pac-12 and the expansion from Oregon State and Washington State to what we currently have. So did you know what is the earliest college conference expansion?
Ooh.
Wow.
You've been posing some great questions the last couple of episodes. I'm just going to take a guess. 1936.
That's a really good guess.
Okay.
1918 with the all Walter Camp team.
Oh, that's an even better guess.
Wow.
So here's the answer. 1888.
Oh,
Michigan
wow.
Intercollegiate Athletic Association, that was founded with 4 teams: Albion, Hillsdale, Michigan Agricultural, which became Michigan State, and Olivet. They expanded in 1892, so that's the very first college conference expansion, and they admitted Michigan Normal College, which is now Eastern Michigan.
Wait, what?
That's a pretty cool fact. I definitely would not have thought it would have gone back into the 19th century. That's a good one.
Now, I could give you some interesting tidbits about how the SEC became the SEC and how the Big Ten became the Big Ten, but I'll hold it.
I would say we have the media days coming up for both, so hold on to them for those shows. That'll be interesting. Look forward to it. My wait what for tonight, I always keep a few in the chamber. I am going to go with the theme of the Pac-12 being the Conference of Champions. And I don't know about you guys, but I always wondered, why are they the Conference of Champions? I don't see where they're like winning all these championships. But if you remember a few episodes ago, G said how many championships that Stanford has won basically for a crazy number of years in a row. They won some championship. So a lot of you might remember former basketball coach George Raveling.
Yes.
So he
was
the head coach at Washington State in the early 70s. He coined the term Conference of Champions. That was during that time where John Wooden and UCLA, who was also a member of the Pac-12, was a dynasty and winning all those championships. So Raveling thought it would be great for them to use that as a marketing strategy to help elevate Washington State's program, saying, hey, we're in the conference with the team that basically does this. And we're right there with them. We play against them. That's the type of competition that we play. And that's the type of ball that we play in the Pac-12. So he tried to use it as a marketing ploy. But another tidbit about that, the name fit them because as a conference, they've secured more NCAA championships in team sports than any other league in history. Y'all want to take a stab at it?
Say that one more time.
You want to take a stab at how many championships they won? That conference has won more championships across team sports than any other conference in sports history. How many do you think?
I'll say 170.
Way out of the ball.
I'm going to say 84.
Nah, 514.
Wait,
wow.
what?
514 Pac-12 championships across their sports.
That is obscure.
Insane.
514.
I did not see what the next closest was. I didn't look for the next closest.
That's 500. That's just ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. Wow. But if you think about a lot of those other sports that kind of go under the radar, certainly not the revenue sports, I know that they're good in a lot of those different sports that most of us don't really watch until it's Olympic time. Probably a lot of those Olympic sports, especially. So that I thought that was pretty interesting. Some good wait what's tonight. All right, so that'll conclude.
Wait, what?
Let's get into some news. A lot of news tidbits to jump into. I will start with our buddy Ward Manuel. Stepped down. I had seen so many different articles and news stories on. I thought he was fired last week, but apparently he officially resigned the other day. He will remain as AD until the end of the year, and certainly this is in calendar year. Excuse me, not
so that is true.
Calendar year. And all of this has to do with all of the controversy that Michigan's athletics has been embroiled in over the past really few years, culminating with the Sharon Moore affair with his staff members. So somebody's got to be the scapegoat, because I was looking at some of the things that happened, and you can't control a player's behavior. Really, you can't control a coach's behavior. But I get it. You're ultimately the figurehead, and you are responsible for the culture that is kept within the athletic department. So I get it. So yeah, he has done that, and that will be, like I said, he'll be done at the end of this calendar year. And there's no news on what they'll be doing in terms of the search for a new AD, which is interesting timing, because you're talking about being in the middle of college hoop season where you're the defending champions. So you're not going to have an AD. So that's a little weird to me.
Yeah, that's. I don't remember anything like that happening. I remember was it Michigan that lost their coach before they won the NCAAs the one year? And Bo Schembechler was the AD and said, it will be a Michigan man. Because the guy took another, and he said, don't coach because you're going to another. It will be a Michigan man that will coach in the championship.
I tell you what, it makes me wonder if Michigan would have quite a interesting documentary on their college athletics program.
Phew.
I'm sure one that may not paint it with such a positive brush, which she would probably eat that up.
Yeah, well,
I
where I
would
went to
watch
school
it
at,
because y'all will understand one of the reasons why I call it Itchigan with the B at the beginning. Because there's a reason why I call it that in the history of the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think there's
I'll wait
probably a
till
lot
Big
of
Ten media days to tell you.
I think
well,
there's a lot of interesting stuff that may have happened that we don't. I think we've only seen a little bit of what's happened behind the scenes there. But the next news story, we of course we covered the ACC media days last week, but they also had an additional day, the day after our last episode, and on that day, they wrapped things up with Cal, Duke, NC State, Pitt, SMU, and Wake Forest. Those are the teams that took the podium that day. I'm not going to spend an inordinate amount of time on it, but just a few of the pretty interesting takeaways. So SMU, their quarterback, senior quarterback, Kevin Jennings, was a 4-year starter, which is unheard of in this transfer portal era. And SMU did a really great thing to honor his legacy. The donors funded something called the Kevin Jennings Recovery Center, which is a new SMU facility designed to help student athletes with performance, recovery, and overall well-being. So it's like a full circle moment for his dedication to the program and his commitment to the program, which you don't hear those types of stories very often. So that's pretty cool. His name will forever be attached to the program. Of course, you can't have media days without coaches talking about money and NIL. There was a little bit of contention. Pitt's coach, Pat Narduzzi, didn't hold back, arguing that if a program had money, then it should be winning. And it probably sounds a little bit like sour grapes to the programs that are winning in that conference. But Wake Forest coach, Jake Dickert, took the opposite angle and said, hey, you know what? You actually have to coach, my friend. Doesn't matter how much money you have, you still have to coach. So whether you have money or don't, if you can coach, you can coach. Yeah. So there was a little contention there. Of course, our buddy Hoodie, when UNC came to the podium, Belichick, he kind of left it to his players to do the talking. You know, he doesn't do the media thing. I saw some pieces of it. It was as cringe as his press conferences were in the NFL. Didn't expect anything different. But a couple of interesting things came out of it. Two of his team leaders really focused on rallying around Belichick because he is getting killed in the media right now. Paul Feinbaum was like, you know, he's going to be embarrassed for how this ends for him, that he probably should just give it up before it gets worse. So there's not a lot of expectations from him, but his players stood up for him and said, you know, we're riding with him. And they addressed a false report that said that he skipped practice during a bye week last year. Hear about. So it basically was a, you know, defend the coach type of moment for UNC, which I appreciate that. That's always cool when the players stick up for a coach if it's justifiable.
Isn't his son like a head coach in waiting or something?
I'm sure, because he was on the staff when he was in New England, so I'm sure that he's there someplace. And that might not be a bad gig for his son. I mean, I think that, you know, Belichick's been around so long. I would say the game's passed him by for the most part, but, you know, he's older than I think that we think he is. I mean, he's been doing this for a minute now.
Yeah, so he has been blessed with some years.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, he was on the Giants teams from the 80s.
Yeah.
So you do the math, we're talking about probably well over 40 years coaching. So, you know, he's done his time. And the last tidbit, again, a little bit more griping from the ACC teams. Duke's coach Manny Diaz addressed what they're calling the Duke tiebreaker rule, which is really the new ACC tiebreaker rule that we discussed. He pushed back on it because obviously Duke ended up winning the ACC championship last year, and he felt like his team's victory was diminished because of their record. But bruh, he said it was right. He says that he feels like the wins and losses metric is the most objective way to settle it, and they pretty much did that.
What happened to them in their bowl game?
Say that again.
What happened to Duke in their bowl game?
think they won, right?
They were so irrelevant to us all. I don't even remember them playing in a bowl game. But if y'all want to fact check that, I'm sure somebody rolled them. But so yeah, that was interesting. And then of course they wrapped up the ACC rankings should be out next week in terms of who they think's going to win the conference. And of course, Miami's expected to be number one when that poll comes out. So that kind of wraps up the ACC media days. And when you guys come up with who probably crushed Duke in their bowl game, you can just throw that out there. SEC media days are in full swing. They're actually going 4 days. On Monday, Oklahoma, Mizzou, Kentucky, Tennessee went. Tuesday, Georgia, Vanderbilt, Auburn, South Carolina. And today, Florida, Alabama, A&M, and Ole Miss. They'll wrap up on Thursday with LSU, Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Texas. And of course, we'll be covering that on our next episode. That should be some good ish talking, I'm sure, and some good tidbits from there. But 2 things already stood out from that we'll delve into a little bit more. There was big discussion on the SEC separating. Big Dude and I were talking about that before we went on air tonight. And they were also talking about there are a few things in that Protect College Sports Act that the conference has a consensus on not agreeing with. So we'll see where that goes throughout the week if any of the coaches bring it up. But the commissioner, Sankey, pulled no punches when it came to those 2 specific items on the first day of media day. You find anything on who crushed Duke on that in that bowl yet?
No, Duke won 42-39 over Arizona State.
What? Oh man.
Yeah. Ended up 95.
Well, they still didn't deserve to do anything else. So he can cry all he wants to. What else? Oh, Major League Baseball deadline. Not a whole lot happening, but probably the biggest name is Detroit Tigers ace Tarek Subel, who's won back-to-back Cy Young awards. Right now, Detroit's in 4th place, I think, about 6.5 games out in the American League Central. And it looks like Detroit kind of wants to hold on to him and try to make a run and think that they can make some noise this season. So other than that, I haven't really heard any big names on the trade front. NFL training camps are open, which is like music to my ears. And actually, Arizona opened last Friday, which was interesting. I think it was Seattle. Seattle opened last Friday, excuse me. So Tuesday, Denver, Arizona opened. And that these are rookies reported. The earliest vets reporting are Wednesday. Today, Arizona and Carolina. But most of the vets are reporting on the 28th of the month, which is next Tuesday. So nothing coming out so far, but mostly rookies are in camp or starting to go to camp. And let's get into this QB rankings debate. Been getting blown up about this, and actually a lot of people wanting to come on the show to debate this with us, which I'm sure it'll come up again. We're really early in the summer. But so ESPN did this survey of 70 league execs, coaches, and scouts. And this is the list that they came up with. Most notably missing, which I don't really have a problem with other than one person, Sam Darnold, Jaden Daniels, Jordan Love, Purdy, Mayfield, Sunshine Lawrence, and Jalen Hurts is the one that I take issue with, but I'm going to hold on to that. And whichever one of y'all wants to jump into this, what do you think about this list? And take it wherever you want to take it.
I mean, Patrick Mahomes, he's had a couple of lucky years and he's gotten it done. But when you start talking about ratings and accuracy, he's got the magic touch for the winning. He did not have the year at all last year to I don't even think be in the top 8. I mean, I think by pedigree and all those other things he does, let me see. Joe Burrow, his health has always been an issue. He didn't quite have the year he has. He has the wideouts and he has everything. I'm not sure what they're doing with his PFF score. His PFF score wasn't anything to write home about. But when you start talking about the second half performances and what you get done inside the red zone, nothing to write home about. Lamar Jackson, probably one of my favorite players in the whole NFL. Another person that had a disappointing year last year that just did not come through, tried to do too much on his own. So I would say they're a little higher than they should be. Justin Herbert, I think, has got all the physical gifts and gets things done. Drake May with a tremendous season in season. We all know what happened off season, but it all depends on what people are using. I guess his PFF score is probably one of the better ones that you see during the season. But I think if you carry it all the way out, there's no way Caleb Williams should even be 10th. I would have Caleb Williams maybe in the top 5. And I would look at the year that Goff had. I would put Goff right ahead of Burrows and move down Jackson and Burrows. And Dak Prescott, he's about where he needs to be. And there's some other people that didn't make it. Of course, Jalen Hurts. I
say I'm waiting for you with this big eagle on you in the middle of it just to go there.
Right. That's what I wanted to get to last. I just don't know what the hate is. How can people say not just and the other stuff I saw they had him 15th? Where are there 14 better quarterbacks better than Jalen Hurts? Where are the 10? Where are the 7? I don't think there's any way he should be left off the top 10 list. If you're talking about who's going to have 4,000-yard season and all those other types of things, he's never been that type of player. But when you start talking about his production in the red zone, him scoring himself, in fact, what they started talking about was, and I'm glad they added it to Josh Allen because he had many rushing touchdowns and his efficiency in the 20 was great. So I would say they got to take another look at this PFF score to keep somebody like Jalen Hurts. I know it's hate. That's why I'm not even saying a whole lot. I mean, it makes no sense that now he's not in the top 10. And, I say top 7 if you're just going by PFF scores. And still people are coming up with these scenarios and saying just because of how things were, he can't really complete a pass over the middle. Now, we start talking about analytics. Did the analytics say that? Or are people saying that, because of what they see? And I think the one game he did get, 4 interceptions against against LA Chargers. I think that people have got to stop imagining things in his PFF score and get some real things. And especially when you're inside the 20-yard line and you start talking about second half performance. I think second half performance and how you do in the second half of a football game and things tied to a win should be a better part of the ratings. That's what I think.
Okay, and we're going to circle back to that. You're not getting off quite that easy because I know you have more to say. So we'll circle back to that. G, what are your thoughts?
Well, look, man, I think Darnold not being on there is just disrespectful.
Oh, yeah.
If anybody being left off, I think that is just disrespectful. But here's the thing. When I look at, first I looked at who had the best stats, okay? Just purely, who were like the top 5 best stats. And so, you have, you got Caleb on there who was in 5. Stafford was 1. Prescott was 2. I can't remember. I lost my spot. Darnold was 4. May was 3. That's just pure stats, right?
Right.
So we all know that the best quarterback 10 is really a team question.
Right.
It's truly a team question. And so when you ask yourself, who has the best offensive line, who has the best skill players on offense, who has the best D, Then this is preseason, you're asking yourself the question, who drafted people who could actually make a difference that would also help the QB in their role? Free agency, who drafted people that could help the QB in their role? So I really went back and I looked at all of that. And this is not scientific at all. So it's just me pontificating. So that came out with Stafford should be number 1 and Mahomes should be 2. And y'all gonna probably trip, but when you pull all that together, Caleb Williams should be playing for at least a conference championship.
I like the way that each of you looked at it. I've heard a lot of pundits look at it the way you looked at it, big dude. It's kind of split, like looking at it that way, like looking at last year, or like I looked at career, like I looked at what they do on a year in, year out basis. But I want to piggyback off of where you were going, G, because I kind of wrote this down that too many variables for this to be super definitive, right? G, you talked about stats, game situations, wins, rings, clutch gene, being able to carry a team. Where does coaching and supporting personnel come in? You touched on a lot of those, right? You touched on a few of those, G. For me, when I looked at this list, and I think that's why, and you guys have known me for a minute, why I'm always like Marino. For me, the quarterbacks that I want are when it's winning time, you're going to take me there. I don't care if you had 9 million yards.
Right.
When it's time, there's 2 minutes left and you have no timeouts. I do not want this other team getting this ball back. I want you to win it with this drive. And I kind of looked at the rankings that way. Y'all know I love Josh. No, he is not the number 1 ranked quarterback in the league. I would love to put him there. But just because of some of the things that I just mentioned earlier, yeah, he's got the stats, but game situations, there's no reason we shouldn't have been in the Super Bowl last year. Now, he's had some great playoff games, but he's had some moments, he's had some misses, right? We win every year. I heard somebody talking about Buffalo, like fans, and I agree with this. We're not even worried about the regular season. We don't worry about the regular season with Buffalo anymore. We feel like we're a playoff team. What are you going to do wild card weekend and after that, right? So for me, and I'll kind of and let me back up a little bit too. So it's interesting that Patrick Mahomes actually got more first place votes than Josh Allen did, but they looked at this aggregate average of variables. And even though Mahomes got more first place votes, fewer voters ranked Allen low on things. His average overall across categories was higher than Mahomes. Also, Caleb Williams was basically in a tie for 10th with 3 other people, and it was real tight. Sam Darnold, Jaden Daniels, and Jordan Love. I think that's a little bit disrespectful, but
Darnold, definitely.
Especially with Jaden Daniels and Jordan Love. I mean, Jaden Daniels had a great rookie year, but what have you done for me lately? And Jordan Love's never exploded off he had 1 good playoff game in Dallas. What has he done since? Right. So for me, and I hate to do it, I hate to do this. I think Patrick Mahomes is still, even after last year, I think he's the one. I think if I'm looking at these quarterbacks, and then I'm not mad at you about Stafford either. I could have easily put Stafford at 1. Those are 2 guys that if this on the line, I'm totally comfortable. If that's my team, I'm totally comfortable that they're not going to make a mistake. Josh, I hold my breath every single time I hold my breath. Joe Burrow, for me, I hate to hold his health against him, but he's just not available for his team. No. He might be the most talented quarterback out of this damn group next to Lamar Jackson.
Pure arm, yes.
You know what I'm saying? But if you're not there, you can't be in the conversation, bro.
Same with number 5.
My new top rankings is I had Mahomes first. I did keep Josh at the top. I do think he's the second best quarterback, even though he drives me crazy. I have Lamar Jackson 3. I think those are the 3 to me. I don't care what Lamar Jackson, like Lamar fell off.
Jackson available.
Say that
Lamar
again?
Jackson. Okay, Guru, you got to help me on Lamar
I
Jackson.
think Lamar Jackson's the third best quarterback in the league. I do. I feel like if you look at the teams that he's had, he almost suffers from Donovan McNabb syndrome, where he never had any receivers to really throw to. Who've been his best wide receivers?
And he's had great tight ends too. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
He's
tight
had
end ain't he ain't had Kelsey type tight ends, though.
No, but he's had enough on 89. What's 89's name? He's had guys like that.
That drops 2-point conversions to send the division around into overtime.
But to make the catches to keep him in the game as well. Because Lamar Jackson clearly is not making the decisions he needs to at the end of the game. That's what I'm saying. The last couple of years, he's gotten worse playing in the fourth quarter, if you ask me.
Well, I'm just like
disagree with you.
His injuries are piling up.
Yeah.
Because last season he had 2.
I have some questions about what was going on in that organization for him to sit out that long when they still the way the schedule and the standings were shaking out, that they were still in the playoff hunt and obviously able to win the division on the last game of the season. I had some questions about him sitting out, and I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, even though I am. Something was going on with that organization. I think that's why we saw Harbaugh basically get fired. We'll see this year. I might be jumping the gun. And I did struggle with that a little bit because I like Stafford a lot. I would have no problem putting Stafford as number one. To me, though, I feel like he's one-dimensional. Mahomes can make a play, make something happen when nothing's there. Josh can make something happen when nothing's there. Lamar can make something happen when nothing's there. That's why I keep Lamar up there. Matthew Stafford, if he can't be protected, he is not going to work. And his wide receiving core is damn near legendary. Same thing with Joe Burrow. I mean, if you can fail with that wide receiving core, which Joe Burrow's managed to do, but he hasn't played either. That's just my thoughts on it. I have Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, Stafford, and I have your boy Jalen Hurts. That's why I got Jay Hurts as 5. And I got Burrow behind Jay Hurts.
Okay.
And actually, go ahead.
What do you have Justin Herbert?
I dropped him 1 to 8. Drake May is out. And I'm sorry, I was disrespected Sam Darnold too. G, he ain't in my top 10 quarterbacks. They won a Super Bowl, but I don't want Sam Darnold to win no game, man.
Man, that's just disrespectful.
So Carol, let me ask you this, G.
Honestly,
Sam
even
Darnold,
with the analysis that I took, he wasn't high up.
Sam Darnold played for you, if I believe, right? At one point.
Mm-hmm.
So let's fast forward. Carolina's a drive away from Super Bowl championship. You got 10 quarterbacks you can go through. Darnold's going to be one of them?
Nah.
And I love Sam. I loved him at USC, but
But I'm sorry, though. I would take him before I take Drake May.
Oh, Drake May. Like I said, Drake May is out of there. That's blasphemy to me. That's blasphemy.
Mm-hmm.
Dak, it's like you want to drop Dak out, but I feel like he does enough to hang around in the top 10 conversation.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want him with the game on the line either.
No.
But here's the thing about Dak, though. We don't know which Dak is going to show up.
Right.
And that's the problem. And
so
that's a great variable, right? Isn't that a great variable to... So who would your number one be, big dude? Think you had Stafford, right, G?
Yeah, Stafford.
And I wouldn't even argue that. I wouldn't be mad at that at all. I love Matt Stafford.
Honestly, the top 3 for me, I could interchange them. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I'd say Stafford.
But y'all ain't feeling me with Lamar up there still, huh?
No.
No,
man. And I keep giving. Guru. I kept giving him a pass. Finally, last year I was like, okay, Lamar, wonderful, as G called him one time. I had to stop giving you a pass. I had to stop. I just had
I
to.
tell you
was like,
what, I was disgusted in his performance in the AFC Championship game at Kansas
Oh,
City a few
man.
years ago. I was absolutely disgusted with it. Like, dude, take off. Like, it's
Right.
now it's winning time. I don't care if you throw 3 touchdowns or run for 4.
Right.
Do something. So yeah, he can disappear. He definitely can disappear in those moments. But I just think the threat, and I look at the last game of the season last year at Pittsburgh, the fact that he did put them in position to win that game. I mean, the kicker misses the kick. And I think at the end of the day, I think he can bring that when he's healthy. Like, I wouldn't want to deal with him when he's healthy. And I know health is important. But I hate playing against them. You see, they had my boys dead to rights the first game of the season. I hate playing against them. I hate it. But you could also probably use that game against them too, I suppose.
Yeah.
Is there anybody on here that you guys think should be off other than May?
Should be off.
Yeah, it should be off this top 10.
I'm not so sure about. I know this is crazy. I'm not so sure about Jared Goff. I just think
not crazy at all, man. I struggled with that one.
I'm not so. I don't think. I certainly know he shouldn't be ahead of Jalen. Come on, and I mean that.
And they got him last. They got him. Well, I think 16. They have him as the 16th ranked NFL quarterback. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's just hate. That's all that is.
He's had a different offensive coordinator every single year. I'm talking about, so that means he's been the offensive coordinator. He's been and that's probably where they talking about where his attitude comes from and getting people straight. Nobody else can keep it straight. And he had to go. He's here. He is trying to call the plays. He's trying to change the offense, and the offensive line's telling him what to do because nobody could really, take it over. And then all of a sudden, everybody's watching everything instead of coaching, And my thing is, beyond all this, looking at where he was at 2023, very probable, almost 2 Super Bowls. 2023 comes up short. 2024, right there, I got it backwards. 2022, 2023, yeah. 2024 win it. And last year, so they're always somewhere. There's either a Super Bowl, but then there's a playoff when it's a really bad performance and a really bad coordinator. So how's it going to be? I mean, that's with no continuity or anything, So I'll still say the reason I didn't go so high on Jalen, because now it is a wait and see thing. It's going to be no more excuses and you get no more passes, on this whole thing with A.J. Brown going, okay, all that's done. Now what are you going to be able to do? Now, how are you going to lead the troops into what you have to, lead to? You got an older offensive line. It probably won't all work. You're going to have to make some more plays yourself. I understand you don't want to get hurt, and you want your contract was the best one because you was the first out of the gate. Now trying to recoup something else, you got to be healthy, but then you don't have a bundle of years left to prove that. So.
See, the thing about Jalen with me, I disagree that he has anything to prove to anybody. I mean, the guy's been to 2 Super Bowls, should have won the first one. Questionable, call that juncture.
Oh, that was garbage.
He would have been the MVP of that joint. I don't feel like he has anything to prove. I think that there's some variables within the offense. You mentioned all the different OCs. I think within that Eagles organization, there were some things. And I'm not saying that his attitude isn't part of it, but I do attribute it to the organization because I didn't hear about any attitude problems at Bama or Oklahoma. And there were no
what is his attitude at Philly?
Well, the people are kind of saying that he's kind of being stubborn and doesn't want to do certain things. He doesn't want to run certain plays. And Big Dude, you can add if I missed anything.
No, you're good so far. You're good.
So for me,
because I do remember him having a concern. Correct me if I'm wrong, Big Dude. He had concern that they were running plays that really was not allowing him to. That was basically playing to his skill set.
Probably, yeah. That was
concerned about that.
was saying, and then he was coming off the field. And it wasn't just him. And that was one of the other reasons Kelsey retired, Jason Kelsey, because it was, you see him come off the field and he would just shake his head like, man, look, I don't know what we're doing here, man. What is it that
exactly. What was the game plan?
Right.
It didn't make any sense. Even the way they used Barkley last year, you bring Barkley in to help your young quarterback out, right? And then you're not running the ball. I mean, I'd be sitting there texting with other Eagles fans going crazy that the Eagles just had 2 series and just went passes, three plays in a row.
And he was on my fantasy football team, and I'm just like, what is Philly doing?
Yeah, I had him on 1 too. But my thing with him is I'm tired of the narrative that he's got to prove something. I think he's proven that he's a star quarterback in this league. And I'm going to tell you, you look at this, they got 16 quarterbacks on the document that I have. There's only 5 quarterbacks in this league that when I see them on the schedule that they scare me. Mahomes, Stafford, Burrow, Jackson, and Hurts. The rest of these dudes, and I'm not disrespecting them. I'm not saying they can't hurt you. Justin Herbert used to bother me a little bit because for some reason he always had good games against us. But none of those guys, like if it was them on the other side for us to get a ring, I'd be supremely confident, man. Like everybody's on this Drake May wagon, like they about to be the new kings of the AFC East. All right, we'll see.
We'll see.
He's got to prove it. Drake May's got to prove it. He's somebody that's got to prove it to me.
Definitely. Here's, you know what, man? I don't really have anything else to add to this. Only tidbit I'll drop real quick is about Lamar Jackson, because I was looking at his stats in Baltimore, and something kind of just jumped out at me. That when he came back from his injury in 2022, he had 2 of his best passing seasons and real solid running season as well. So it is conceivable, since he was injured last year, that if he's healthy, this year he can be show out Action Jackson, and he might prove us wrong. So that would be the only reason why I would say definitely keep him at least in the top 10. Burrow, I don't know. I just don't know if he's going to stick around long enough to use that wonderful arm of his, because he has a heck of an arm.
Burrow may have jumped the shark, man, to be quite honest with you. I mean, he'll have, I think he'll have some good seasons, but they might have missed that window. Might have missed that window.
Yeah.
But, so I'm going to end with one last thing on this. Being a winning QB doesn't make you a better QB.
Explain.
Yeah.
Because it's a team sport. And I think that people tend to, like in the beginning, I was not a Mahomes is the best quarterback guy, because they anointed him because Kansas City was winning. Right. Even when you think about when they lost to New England in overtime in the AFC Championship, when that was Brady's last year in the AFC, I believe, they had him right there with Brady at that game. And he wasn't there with Brady at that game. And then when he won a couple of Super Bowls, then it's like, oh, it's him and Brady now. So you jump where Dan Marino and John Elway and Joe Montana. So they're not in these discussions anymore. Patrick Mahomes has surpassed all these people.
Yeah.
Just because he's won, right? And don't get me wrong, winning it's important, but I just don't feel like that makes you the best player in a team sport. If this was tennis, you winning all the tournaments, you're the only one out there. No one else can dictate whether you win or not. Sure. But this whole quarterback being a winner, making them better than somebody else, I'd argue that Patrick Mahomes may not be as talented as 3 or 4 of these other guys, just from a talent perspective.
Well, I guess that's the question. Is the PFF enough to say that? So we're not going to be winners. What else and what are the other measures and what are the other analytics that makes someone else another quarterback? Or is it more of the intangibles that no one else? Because it sounds like to us, the PFF scores are important, but if winning is not an intangible, then what's the next intangible that folks are missing that makes one quarterback better than the next?
I think it's subjective. I really do. I think it's so hard because I always make the argument for Marino. He didn't win. I mean, Buffalo was always in their way in that division. He never got back to a Super Bowl after, I believe it was his rookie year he went.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, well, Dan Marino's not really a top quarterback because he didn't win. Dude's got one of the best damn arms we've ever seen, man.
And the reality is Brady had a long career.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
kind of like LeBron James, a lot of his stats is in part because he had a long career.
Yes. And I appreciate those stats, but you're not going to. Yeah. And, I'm not taking anything away from any of these guys. I think you guys know, I've said this before. I love taller quarterbacks, bigger quarterbacks, mobile quarterbacks. To me, a multi-dimensional quarterback, that's what I'm looking for. These traditional drop back cats will never be the best quarterbacks to me. Unless it's a Brady once in a lifetime type of cat. But, there's
not a whole lot of Danny Whites out there.
Danny White. Did you say Danny White? I know you didn't say Danny.
Yeah, a tall quarterback who can stand in the pocket, but he had some wheels when he needed to.
Think about Jared Goff.
He said Danny White. No, he
think about Jared Goff. That's why Jared Goff's ceiling is so limited. You have to protect him. He has to have protection. If he can't ad-lib, if he doesn't have protection, Detroit can't win. And for me, the blitz is going to get there sometimes. I need my quarterback to be able to get out of there. I need him to have his arm strong enough to throw the ball when maybe some guy's draped over him. I need him to be able to see over the blitz.
Well, that's why I like Josh Allen, because he can do all those different things. Like I said, and maybe Matt Stafford is a hair in front of him, and there might be some questions about what he takes chances on, but for sure, 90% of what he does. That's why I think winning is going to be important for him too, because people aren't looking at how he did win to get them there. Because if he doesn't take those chances, they're not even there. If he doesn't,
not even in the conversation.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Not even in the conversation. Yeah. So, if you think about what some of these quarterbacks lack, like, could you imagine if Matthew Stafford had wheels?
Oh,
or a guy like Burrow had wheels? Oh my God.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to do anything.
Well, same thing with Josh Allen,
if he didn't have wheels, then we have a different conversation. Yep. Absolutely. 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 So
I think he has to run too much.
Yeah, I would like to see them cut back on that, especially the called runs. If you gotta go, it's 3rd and 3 and ain't nothing there. Please, by all means, get this first down. But I wish they would cut it out with the design runs. I'm not.
I'm not big on that.
I agree with you. Play to the man.
Last year he was hurt more too, man.
Oh yeah, he's taking some shots.
And he's 30 years old now. Each decade that goes by, that body's not going to be feeling the same when you get up in the morning and
I take longer to heal.
Yep.
No, and he administers punishment too.
Yeah, he's gonna have to stop that. So, but I'm sure we'll continue this conversation as we get closer to the start of the season, in season, because the media will have us riled up after Joe Burrow throws for 600 yards one Sunday and loses.
I'm telling you, come back at us, say, "Told you."
Yep. But yeah, we'll see what my guy Lamar does. I'm not quite done with him yet, so I don't want to knock him down. But
yeah, me either. I'm a big fan. I want to see him do. But after a while, I was like, all right, cuz, enough, man. You got to stop with these crazy throws.
and you know what I was thinking too, fellas? Top 10. I don't even have 10 quarterbacks that I like that much to have a top 10.
No, me either.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? It's like they got 10 there because they went to 10, but them jokers wouldn't come in. They wouldn't pop. Only thing, like I said, it would be tough if you took this 5. I feel like Hurts has got to be there. Maybe I'm backtracking a little bit. Maybe Hurts is over Lamar on what's the day? July 21st. Maybe Hurts is above Lamar today. I don't know. I mean, he's
Yeah,
got the Super Bowl.
If we follow Lamar Jackson's history this season, he's gonna go off
Well, we shall see.
after injury.
I hope not too much.
That's the first
All
time
right.
that's the first time they talked about he broke an ankle. He broke his ankle. So it's the first time I've heard that.
Man, loved watching him play, man. Louisville be playing like Boston College or somebody, and I don't care who else was playing. I was watching Lamar, man. And I
He's
hope he
fun
can
to
get
watch
back to
when he's
that.
on the game. He is fun to watch.
Absolutely,
8 touchdowns in the
absolutely.
game. Yeah.
So we'll return to this conversation. And there's a bunch of other quarterback rankings out there too, and they're all over the place. Like CBS Sports has one with SI. It looks nothing like this. It's all over the place. And
It's just fun.
another thing we need to think about too is also we know that the NFL likes to manufacture superstars too. So, that's a whole nother variable with who they want to be the face of the league versus who they don't want to be the face of the league. So that's a whole nother conversation. So anyway, let's hop into this Pac-12. Damn, I almost called them Pac-10. They've been Pac-8, Pac-10, Pac-12, Pac everything, Pac-2. Let's hop into the new era for the Conference of Champions, the Pac-12. So quite a story for them to even be back to where they are, to be quite honest with you. Realignment basically gutted them in 2022. The mass exodus to the Big Ten, UCLA, USC went first. Then Oregon did in Washington win in 2023. I forget about Washington sometimes, fellas, that they're in your conference.
How do you forget that, man?
I don't know. They were in the national championship game a few years ago, but somehow I forget that. Yeah, I forget them sometimes. So they only had two teams at one point, Oregon State and Washington State, but those schools remained a part of that conference they were called the legal Pac-2, but a settlement let them keep the Pac-12, the conference name, the logo, the assets, and all of that. So that's how it's kind of able to rebuild itself in this fashion, because they never lost proprietary rights to the Pac-12 as a name per se. So then, of course, you have all these teams that join: Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno, San Diego, Utah State, all joined from the Mountain West Conference, which raised their profile a little bit. But this was great for those teams. And, of course, for those of you that are viewing this, you'll notice that the Zags are a member, but they're a member for basketball only. So for football, it's simply an 8-team conference. For basketball, it's 9 because the Zags are included in that, which will be interesting for them. Texas State left the Sun Belt in June 25, and they became the 8th team and the final football member. And did you guys know that there was a FBS, something called the FBS minimum, where to move like that within FBS, you have to have 16 team sports.
16?
Yep. You have to have at least 16 varsity sports.
No, did not know that.
Yeah, so that's something that I learned in looking at this. So looking at some of the big storylines with this conference.
Well, there's actually some couple pieces and how we got there that I think is pretty important.
Yeah, chime in. Feel free to chime in.
Yeah, so what also helped the Pac-12 to fold. Yeah, I remember 2023 and the whole media rights debacle and how they decided to go like real heavy on the streaming and all of that stuff. Well, that just really failed. And so that was really what started pushing the rest of the Pac-12 teams to say, you know what, we're done. And so that's why you get some over to the ACC. And I can't remember where else. Some went ACC, some went to the Big 12, and some went Big 10, I think.
Yeah, I think those are.
So yeah, that was just a debacle. And this is kind of shady, I'm going to say it, because they had this 2-year grace period. And that's when they played with the Mountain West. But as soon as the grace period was over, they raided the Mountain West.
Absolutely orchestrated.
So
Absolutely
that was
orchestrated.
yeah. So that right there was I was like, that right there was a little shady on the Pac-12. But I'm like, the Mountain West leadership, they had to know that was going to happen because the Mountain West, in a lot of ways, was probably the top Group of 5 program at the time. I mean,
Yeah,
conference.
absolutely.
So you know
Absolutely.
that's where they were going to come and raid them. But you know what? You decided to, to lay down with the Pac-2, and this is what you got.
Yeah, I would love to have been a fly on the wall in some of the meetings that were probably taking place as they're playing these teams, because there were some side conversations that probably were illegal to have in season because it happened too neatly.
You know.
You know, how many teams leave a conference like that together and all go to the same conference?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
just
They
unheard
taught
of.
you to correct that.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
how they
yeah.
did a lot passively. I even could hear the tampering when they were interviewing one tight end on Fresno State that came from NIU, Northern Illinois, and they said, "Well, what was it that made you come to Fresno?" He said, "Well, we played them, and one of the coaches said he would look out for me. Don't worry about it." Now, nobody really recruited anybody, but that's a little bit more than passive. It just sounds like all the interactions, including what league they're going to go to, is almost the same thing. This is why, from the other thing with the College Protection College Sports Act, they're talking about people actually being independent for a couple of years before they even go to somewhere else, so they can't add on, because now a lot of other people could be wanting to come. All of a sudden, it could go from 8 teams or 9 teams with basketball. They may be up to 16 or 17 before you know that, if the Mountain West can't sustain itself. So I guess the question is going to be about what is it that is going to happen where they sustain itself from is it a Group 6 or a Group 5 to a P4? Now everybody talked about all the interviews and said, hey, we really play P4s. That's really what we're looking at. But does that mean you have a new conference? So it just
I don't even know
like
if they can get to P4 level again. I'm like, who's there? I mean, unless the Big Ten and the SEC is going to dump some people.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what their recruitment looks like. Definitely what you just said. Gee, who are they going to be able to get to come compete? Now, one of the things that I did notice in looking at their schedule is the first week of the season, they have 5 games against P4 teams. Fresno's at USC, Oregon State's at Houston, Boise's at Oregon, and they've played often over the years. Texas State at Texas, and then the Apple Cup, Washington State at Washington. The following week, Washington State goes to K-State. So they're playing the Big 10, Big 12, SEC in those first couple of weeks. I think
their first 4 games are like that, aren't they?
So, I mean, that can benefit them if they can actually compete. Now, I don't expect them to necessarily to be out the gate, but when you think about recruitment and especially transfers, if you can say, dog, we play Texas, we play USC, and I'm sure that will rotate. Maybe they play UCLA or Ohio State or, Penn State. I'm sure that'll rotate through the conference. But to say that you're getting these games, and, Fresno's been competitive before against these type of teams. Boise certainly has. So they might not go deep competitively, but if they can get 2 that can compete, it'll be interesting to see if they can get themselves in that CFP landscape. One of the things that you brought up about the streaming, G, one of the things I noticed about the Pac-12 is their media was always weird to me, and that probably contributed to the end of them like the streaming did. They had all these Pac-12 channels. Like, the Big Ten and SEC have one channel. Pac-12 had like Pac-12 Mountain, Pac-12 this, Pac-12 that. And then some of the teams, it was like Pac-12 Washington or Pacific West. It was just really weird to me how their media situation was set up. So I'm wondering if that also combined with that streaming situation led to their surmise in terms of those particular contracts. But that was just always weird to me that they had so many channels.
Yeah, that is going to be weird. The other weird thing is about how important this whole idea of a flex game is going to be. That you
Yeah.
actually may have to play another opponent twice in that flex game.
And we're going to get to that. Hold on to that for a minute, big dude. Hold on to that. We're going to delve into that in some detail. Let's take a look at some of their bigger storylines. Oops. And we talked about them being gutted, the rebuild timeline. The comeback itself, I don't think we'll probably ever see anything happen like this again, where a conference gets whittled down to 2 teams and they're able to rebuild themselves. The overarching question is going to be, can they still carry weight, which we started to delve into? You think there's any possibility they could become relevant again in the college landscape? Because, the Pac-12, they used to rep back in the day.
Right.
Do you guys think there's any way? I mean, we see what the makeup is. I mean, there would take some dramatic shift in the recruitment pendulum for really more than 2 of these teams to make noise.
So when you say make noise, you're talking about like regular CFP?
Yeah, like regular. Because for example, Boise will probably end up ranked at some point because they're usually in the top 25. But can anybody besides Boise move up and get into that? And I'm guessing this is going to go to 24 teams, probably more than that afterwards for the CFP. Can we get anybody from this conference that can actually get them to the point where they get an automatic bid to this thing?
Well, I think it's going to depend on those teams like San Diego State, because they have a good year every now and then. It's the consistency. Like they had that young man, Chris Johnson, and you picked him out last year, This is a guy that nobody heard about until you started looking at the draft. But I think the problem is they don't have enough players following them. They've been hiring new people. You got the new brother that's the coach at Oregon State. I think he was at Alabama last year.
Mm-hmm. He was.
Yeah. So you have people coming out there, and you got the new coaches. Are a number of people, are they ready to come? Now, one of the things I didn't hear is how well they're doing with NIL. It sounded like they were cherry picking who it is they want to talk about, because there were some good players, but there wasn't an abundance of a team, that we know they're going to be competitive, but then when you start off like Oregon State is going to start off with Houston, and who else are they starting off with next? I think it's Houston, and I think it's Colorado. When you start off like that, it's like, okay, starting off 0-2 is no way to be. So I would say it's going to take a while for them to even come to be relative. I think the flex game and all that is enough to hold our attention. I just don't think there's enough to be relevant anytime soon.
I'm glad
when I think about go ahead, Guru.
I'm glad you brought up the coaches, big dude, because 40% of their conference basically has a new coach.
Right.
Go ahead, G. I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah.
Well, we know one of them. Well, they're the best right now. They're the best of the G6, this conference. At least that's what the analysts are saying. And the G6 essentially gets one auto bid. So if you take that together, there's a good chance you'll always see a Pac-12 team in the CFP with an auto bid. So you at least see that. That would be my guess. Whether or not any particular team is making this constant run. I mean, right now it's between Boise and San Diego State, which Boise is now. I'll go more into this when we get to the team breakdown. But right now it's Boise and San Diego State, who's probably going to be vying for that CFP spot. But one of the things I do like about the Pac-12 is that they have an 18 round robin. So you get a pure champion for the conference. And with that, and then you add to the flex, you can maybe improve your CFP chances, or you get one of they may end up being in the New Year's Six game, which is still huge for them. So so to answer your question, can they make noise in terms of the technical pieces of how the CFP operate? Yes, they can get the auto bid if they're the best team and if they're consistently the best team. I wouldn't be surprised if they consistently have a representative in a New Year's Six bowl. I would not be surprised.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. You made me think about where James Madison's and Tulane's of the world now end up with this newly formed Pac-12 that, again, was always considered one of those major conferences. What happens to James, how people perceive James Madison and Tulane. Certainly need to look at the schedules that they play, but that'll be real interesting. Those last few spots in CFP, we thought we had controversy this past year. It could be super controversial if this conference ends up being competitively good. So
I think either Boise or San Diego is actually playing JMU this coming season.
So those might be, make or break games for teams like James Madison. And I don't remember what conference James Madison or Tulane are in. I'm guessing, are they both Sun Belt maybe? I feel like Tulane might be Sun Belt.
Well, definitely James Madison.
Yeah, they used to be
USC. Back. Let me pull it up real quick. I should know this, y'all. I'm horrible.
Because I'm curious what conferences they're in, because that would probably make a difference too. But while you're doing that, in terms of, we talked about
James Madison, we knew they were definitely in the Sun Belt, but Tulane, I'll check.
Okay. So we talked about recruitment. Colorado State brought in 35 transfers, which is interesting. I would love to see the breakdown of where they came from. We know that almost half of them came with Mora from UConn. Washington State, interestingly enough, lost over 15 players because they went with their coach when he left Iowa State. But then they reloaded with 28 transfers. So they seem to be doing all right, but I would want to see the caliber that they're attracting. And I know that I forgot which one of you had mentioned what their NIL might look like. Because at the end of the day, big dude, that's going to be the determining factor. What type of funds do they have in the coffers, right, to be able to go out and get these guys? It would be a hard sell to me, man. You'd have to look at guys that are maybe sitting at an SEC or Big Ten school, ACC school, that really aren't getting any burn whatsoever and aren't getting the transfer opportunities they want, to end up at schools like these. And I hate to say it that way, but the landscape is just so competitive with the Power Four conferences already. That's why I think this is kind of intriguing. And I'm going to try to catch a lot of their games to see what type of ball they're playing, because I'll be real interested to see if they can compete, especially those first couple of weeks.
I'll definitely watch them since I'm on the West Coast. So I'll be
you're
up.
Gonna get your fill. You'll get your fill of this, man.
Tulane is in the American.
In the American, okay, that's interesting. Okay,
it used to be the USA, I think. If it's the same
Conference USA, yeah.
Conference USA, yeah. So I guess Texas State, as a member, is kind of the culture shock team, jumping from the Sun Belt. They kind of consider them the lone outsider program, but they bring in the conference's most explosive offense. I was telling Big Dude earlier, they average damn near 37 points a game. Now, they don't play much defense, which, now you're stepping it up a level. So we might see some high-scoring games here, some shootouts. But it'll be key to see how they handle leveling up with competition this year, because they're the one team that hasn't played at this level before.
Regionally, it makes better sense than honestly the Sun Belt.
Say that again?
Regionally, it makes more sense than the Sun Belt.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm wondering, because this goes back to the culture of football in the state of Texas. There's going to be some Texas State alum out there that have some pockets. that might try to shoot their shot at, let's see if we can make this program be like the other Texas schools, right? Because I actually thought Texas State was a fictional school a few years ago. I honestly did. I didn't know that it was a real school. Yes, I didn't know that there was a Texas State for real. I thought it was like, the teams from the movie.
Right.
So, but I'm wondering, because football's so big in that state, and that they have alum that are probably doing some big things out there, how involved will they get in trying to have them compete immediately? I know that they were able to afford a $5 million buyout for the Sun Belt to move to the Pac-12. So they're not bashful about spending money, and they have some money, because you wouldn't think a team like that would pay $5 million to get out of a conference, or have the $5 million to be able to pay to get out of the conference. So they're the team that I'm most intrigued with, because I would see their scores last year and be like, okay, they're playing some ball out here. So we'll see what happens. Let's hop into the 13-week flex situation, because and Big Dude, you started getting into that. I'll let you get back to it. Talk to us about how that 13 flex game works, because that's probably that's a pretty cool wrinkle to have, for a conference. But start us off with the discussion of how that works.
Well, the part that I remember is you could play the same team, and it may be for a conference championship, and the meaning of the game is important, because you could end up playing the same opponent twice, which a lot of people don't want to do. There's probably, when you start talking about innovation, you don't see that much. So to me, this is where the college, I say the conference championship is even a much bigger thing to find out, who is going to be able to play. Like, if you got to beat Fresno twice to get in there, man, that's something to say that you've beaten someone else twice to get into the conference championship, But, to some people, it'll mean less, who doesn't have as much on the line. But somebody that has a lot on the line, they're going to really earn their way. And who knows whether that could be a wave of the future, because we always talked about what tie-breaking rules are. And this is a painful one, especially if you have to play. Can you imagine if Bama and Georgia had to play each other twice? There's the flex game before you even get to the SEC championship. I think that with the way the conference is now, that may work. If it gets stronger, it might be difficult to do. It may be just for the numbers, but I would say, that's what it is, the better that it gets. Right now, I think it works the way it is right now. Even going against Boise is going to be tough, but this might be how somebody like Texas State slips in there. They were 7-6 last year, not great in the conference, but they can get people in that they want. I mean, I think I looked up their college, what it is at the university, their acceptance rate, because it said, of course, is it a hard school to get in? It was just one of those regular questions that pops up, and it's about 90% acceptance rate. So they can get people in there, So they may be competitive in a different way, but I think that the flex rule, I think it's going to depend on what's on the line in that particular part of it, and that's going to be interesting for TV as well.
Well, you brought up something very important, is that it can't. They're going to truly compete. It can't be a long-term thing,
right?
And I'll get to why. So, yeah, as Big Dude said, you can play a team twice. Now, in doing that, they can manufacture the matchups. And that's how they can become a player quickly. So they can wait until as late as 6 days before kickoff to tell you who the matchup will be. So let's say Boise State plays Oregon this first game, all right? And that'll probably be the best. I'm assuming that'll be the best team that Boise State plays all year. I'm not saying it's going to happen. We'll have a recording to prove that I did not say that I think this is going to happen. Let's say Boise State beats Oregon.
Right.
Boise State may not lose again, but let's say they lose a conference game after that, right? You're going to try to position Boise State, because they might now be your best possibility to get to a CFP bid. You're going to probably try to put them in that week 13 game against one of your stronger opponents in this conference to get Boise State some more points in that dumb CFP, however they figure out who's going to the playoff system.
Right.
So they can basically, my point is they can manipulate these flex games to their benefit. And that's kind of one of the things that they said is the benefit of it. It creates compelling matchups. It has the potential to help strengthen a team's CFP resume, get another quality win late in the season. And they're talking about it as an innovative experiment no other conferences tried. Yeah, because SEC and Big Ten and ACC have TV contracts, and you're not going to be telling them 6 days before a game who the teams are going to be.
No,
that's not happening. So, right now, if they have some teams that step up, that might help them more quickly get a CFP situation in effect. But it's interesting. It's interesting, but I don't think it'll last very long.
No, why wouldn't it last long?
Because I can hear Notre Dame crying about it. They're manipulating their schedule in the last game so that they can get more points with the CFP committee. And we haven't played since Thanksgiving. Well, no one told you to be independent, Notre Dame. And we're always going to make it about Notre Dame when it comes to college football. If you've been listening, it's always going to be about Notre Dame being shut out and crying about it.
It's like them wanting that Pollyanna gift, If there's no Pollyanna, you don't get to take it away from anyone else if you're not playing. You can't sit there and say, you know what, you got that game over there. Now I want to be in it, and I want to take that game from you. No.
Honestly,
but in all seriousness,
other conferences move to this versus having their extra game being the championship. I'd rather see at the very end of the season, I'd rather see the two best in the conference play.
The problem is they still have a conference championship game.
Oh, they have one, yeah. It's all.
Are they going to keep the championship game? Oh, okay.
And it's at whoever has the best record. It's not about having it in Indiana or wherever else. This is at somebody's real stadium. Yeah, somebody's.
Well, they keep it at whoever is the best team. I personally like it, but I can definitely see the P4s and the other the remaining G5s having a problem with it. Because it is a manipulation. It is a manipulation, but I honestly like it.
Because as soon as you get left out, because I'm thinking about a James Madison and Tulane, whoever else was on that edge last year, soon as they get left out because of this, they're going to certainly cry manipulation, which it is. But
it is.
Hey, it is what it is, man. I'm not mad at it either until somebody
that last game of the season. People always talking about, the season isn't meaningful. Okay, we'll do this. That'll make the damn last game of the season very meaningful.
Yeah, well, they have to start. They have to start a new rich history
season. Yep, create some interest, and you never know where it may go. But I just think that the television contracts with the big boys, they want to be able to promote the game. They want to be able to promote the Michigan Ohio State game. That's the last game. We ain't ever changing that, and that's just what it's going to be. Bama, Auburn, all those rivalries. They don't want to have to throw a game in after that we're not even going to know who's going to play who. I just think that it could be done if they really wanted to do it.
CBS is going along with it.
Exactly.
So this new Pac-12 is. And hopefully this term is still appropriate, but it almost seems like they're like the hippie conference now.
Hey, the way they're moving, that's not a bad characterization. They're kind of going with the flow, man.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
They don't know what it's going to be.
What works best for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Now they're probably still trying to get. They're going to try to get those three other teams, obviously. But I don't know. I like the Week 13 flex. I actually really like it.
That might be something to look at down the road. Who do we think they target for the teams to round them out? So that'll be interesting. That'll be real interesting to see because they gotta try to make it 12, right?
Here's the thing: if they can use those first four games to really make up a lot of extra money, And especially if they start winning some of those first 4 games, if they're against P4 teams, that creates a lot more excitement, within the league itself. Then, I mean, I think their media rights run into 31. Let's see, 30-31. So it's 5 years. So who knows if they play an exciting brand of football, if they're keeping up with the big leagues, the P4s, we can have an interesting time on our hands as we transition.
Yeah. And think about that first week schedule. I mean, come on, you can't tell me Houston or Washington can't be had. Now the other games, I don't see it happening, but I wouldn't bet money that Houston and Washington hold up their end of their conference bargains. So I'm gonna have my eye particularly on those games to see what happens. First, one's a rivalry game, and then Oregon State with the Bama coach. I think that's going to be a different looking Oregon State team. We know Houston does not play defense, never has. So Oregon State should be able to score at least. They just might not be able to stop Houston. But
I was going to say they ain't going to be able to stop that offense.
Yeah, not too many people slow that thing down, conference or out of conference. So
nope.
All right. Let's get into our team breakdowns. And we don't need to delve too deep into it, but, just kind of some things that stand out to you guys, any particular teams that are on your radar. I think it seems that we're all in agreement that at least until we find out more, Boise's probably the top dog right now in the conference. So maybe a good place to go is who do you think might be a viable competitor? Look in this first year
I'm thinking SDSU is probably the next best when it comes to this team.
Who was that?
San Diego State.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, so they're probably the next best. They're gonna play UCLA on September 12th. Kind of give us an idea, after they, knock the cobwebs off that first week, the second week, but kind of see, at least where they are. Excuse me. And then, their defense needs lost a lot. So like 12 out of the 14 defensive stars are gone. So that we have to see if they've retooled that. Offense just need, Jaden Denegal, he just needs to be consistent.
Yeah.
But that goes back to the O-line, which we talk about a lot. So they have a very solid ground game, but we have to see if he can be more consistent and if that O-line can protect him. But then coming in third, Fresno, everything I'm reading, they're projected to kind of be mid. So they have a good offense, but the defense has been pretty poor. So their first game is USC on September 4th. And so that'll give you a good indication as to how did those early practices go? Where are they mentally? Now, I don't expect them to beat USC, but if they hang in there, that actually has some meaning for the rest of the conference season, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you have possibly challenging Boise, big dude?
I think I would say San Diego State and Colorado are neck and neck, and actually because of coaching, I think, and because that he brought his team with him, and we talked about people like the young man Demonde, a defensive end, and some of the other people they brought from UConn. I think Colorado State is set to be there as well. I think that their team is tried and true. I mean, they still have people left over that when Colorado was a good team and they were playing them, that's the thing to remember. That just when we saw them, I mean, Colorado was in the Big 12 and it was a different situation. So they got some people left over from that era. But I think that San Diego State is not far behind. I think San Diego State is right there. And they have some big games. In fact, San Diego State, they play UCLA, they play at Oregon, and then Fresno for homecoming, and then at Colorado State. That's going to be interesting. So I would say them at Colorado State is going to be the big game for them. I think Colorado State may have the edge for them right now, even though San Diego State had a decent year last year. So those are the different ones. I want to say I like the enthusiasm of the gentleman from Oregon, from their team. I just don't think they're ready yet. He hasn't done much with his squad yet. Texas State enthusiastic. I would say the biggest upset people that I would say that could get themselves into the right position. We all know we got to watch out for a team coached by Bronco Mendenhall that used to be at Boise State, Utah State. So Utah State are the ones that would be the spoilers. So it would be Boise, Colorado, San Diego State, and Utah State as a surprise.
Now, here's an interesting stat I forgot to say from San Diego last season was that when they were plus in turnovers, they were undefeated.
Okay.
Right. So if they can hold on to the ball, that they will give Boise everything that they can handle, I think.
Right. Yep.
From my perspective, I see two teams. Most of these teams have quarterback battles going on. Only two teams really are solid in terms of their quarterback. That's Utah State and San Diego State. You mentioned Denegal coming back off injury, but he's ready to go. He was healthy in the spring. He's good to go for the fall. And Utah State has McKay Hillstead, who I don't know if you guys remember. He was supposed to be the quarterback at BYU before our guy took his spot, but he got hurt. So he transferred to Utah State. And, coming in and having a dependable quarterback, sometimes your offense is a little bit more stable than the other teams that have these. They're still uncertain about who their quarterbacks are going to be, and we're in July. A team that's really dangerous to me is Oregon State. One, I am being a homer here. The Bama coach, Jamarcus Shepard, dude can straight up coach. Now, I'm not saying he's going to turn their fortunes around in year one, but I don't know if you guys remember Malik Murphy. He was the quarterback at Texas. Well, that's their quarterback.
Okay.
And I liked him a lot at Texas. I mean, Texas had, I forget the guy who plays for the Dolphins now. That was there when Arch came. But basically you had him and Arch, and Murphy got in when there were some injuries before Arch came. But then once Arch came, he was basically third wheel. But I think he can play. He's that quarterback that I like too, dual threat. He can make some things happen out of the pocket. And I'm going to be interested to see if he gets the starting position, what they do. And he's a senior. He's been at two schools. I didn't realize he was at Duke, but I do remember him at Texas. So I'm real curious about what he does. That kind of would be maybe my sleeper. But I'm in agreement. I'm agreement with UG. I think San Diego State should be right there. Colorado State, I want to say that they might be there just because they might have a little bit of consistency with all those transfers coming in with Mora. They're used to winning. They won elsewhere, and I know it was at UConn. It wasn't, a Power Four, but when you're used to winning, it doesn't matter where you won. You just don't know how to lose at a certain point. It's hard to beat teams and players like that. But honestly, I don't think that there's really any competition for Boise. But I think I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Oregon State upsets Houston.
All right.
That's if Malik Murphy starts. If he's the starting quarterback. If he's not, then I take that back. But if he wins the starting job, Houston's going to get upset week one. But Boise State will rep this. They'll probably get their doors blown off week one at Eugene. But I hope they can hang in there with Oregon. I mean, it's the first game of the year. If you're going to get Oregon, that's probably a good time to get them. So we'll see what happens.
I'd do it if Oregon State and Washington State, if they, because with the old Pac-12, there will be some years where Oregon State is like really in the conversation. There'll be some years when Washington State is in the conversation. So it's just always kind of like, they were like there usually. You just didn't know if they were going to actually go up to 75% or if they were going to stay 60. So I wonder if with this new look Pac-12, will they eventually become, like the kings of the hill at some point?
That's a
I
great
do wonder
question.
if that's
Great
going to
thought.
happen. Because I know those two teams, they have alums with money.
And you're right; those are the two holdovers. It should be their conference. They shouldn't be letting Boise come in and take it from them. To be quite honest with you, that's a great point, G. I didn't really think about that. And they did kind of orchestrate what teams were coming in. So maybe that's part of the thing. Like, hey, we'll be the two top dogs in this thing. And so interesting. Yeah, that's a good catch with that. Anything else to add about the Pac-12, fellas?
No, could be a very innovative and a good competitive first year.
Yeah, I'm glad they're back. Well, that will do it for this episode. As always, continue to follow us, subscribe, like all that good stuff. And until next time, and we'll be doing the SEC on the next episode. So I'm going to probably get dogged on that one. So anyways, until next time, see ya later.